Well, thanks for having me. Some people, I think, myself included, sometimes get bored with the ups and downs that I've been through. But if anybody can learn from some of the things that I've had to endure, then this is certainly worthwhile. Hopefully, I can help somebody else. It's kind of interesting. I had a previous business that educated small businesses on e-commerce, and I was partners with Shopify in that. And we did that in a live way. So we would put and gather small business owners in a room. We were partners with the SBA, and that blew up into larger and larger events. And then COVID hit. So COVID wiped out the whole live events businesses or industry, I should say. And so as I kind of plotted my next adventure, I joked with my friends that I was going to open a better bagel shop in my neighborhood because there wasn't one. And they just laughed and said, okay, go for it. So I thought, this COVID thing will blow over and there will be a couple of empty spaces that I can swoop in on and hopefully get at a discount. And how smart am I, right? And then as COVID endured, it also shined a light on why it was such a bad idea, right? Labor became a problem, supply chain became a problem, just interacting with customers was a problem, right? And the face to face wasn't the best business idea to be in. But as I did my homework, I kind of saw, and you're in Southern California, that there's a lot of white space and room for bagels, especially good ones. In Southern California, it's gotten better where you are. It's horrible in San Diego. So I thought, you know what, maybe there's an opening on the wholesale end. Maybe I could supply hotels and businesses and schools and take advantage of the white space that way. So I thought, well, I need a recipe. So I did some internet sleuthing and I found a very basic recipe and I tried to compare it to what some of the national chains were doing with their bagels in terms of ingredients. And the more research I did, the more I figured out that a lot of people were using preservatives and not high quality ingredients. So in my apartment, in my kitchen, I cobbled together some ingredients between Whole Foods and the internet and Amazon, and I came up on the second try with a great tasting bagel. And I've been around enough, long enough to know I can't trust my own judgment, much less my friends and family. So I thought, I know I'm gonna make a large batch and I'm gonna pass them out to businesses, coffee shops in my neighborhood, and see if they would buy them for their customers. And so I rented a commercial kitchen for $200, and I made a batch of 10 dozen. Took me all day, and at like 3:30 in the afternoon, I walked around my neighborhood, and again, we were still in COVID time, so I packaged the bagels in small coffee bean bags, that had a window on them. I had come up with my name and logo of CaliBagels, and I had some stickers made for cheap at Sticker Mule, right? And I had a nutrition label made through Recipal, and that didn't cost me a lot. I want to say $15 or something. And I packaged them up. I walked around and I passed them out. I only went to like six places because coffee shops tend to close early in the afternoon, right? So I'm finding everything out the hard way. And that evening, I got a call from one of the places where I dropped off some of the bagels, and the woman said, "Hey, are you the guy that dropped off the bagel today?" And I said, "Yes." And she said, "Oh my gosh, this is the best tasting bagel I've ever had." And I thought, oh, I guess that's great. And she said, yes, I want you to supply all eight of our locations. And I thought, oh my gosh, I guess I'm in the bagel business. I supplied them for about a month, and I'm running around town, literally running a bread truck and running from location to location, taking back the stale ones and resupplying and stocking them, trying to convince them to put me on the menu and make an egg sandwich with my bagels and stuff because they loved the bags that they were in, so they were displaying them by the register as kind of a grab and go item. And I was trying to again just leverage that as best I could, and then I just stopped one day and I said, you know what, this is not what I had in mind of kicking back in my bagel shop and drinking coffee and eating bagels with my friends. And so I just, having an e-commerce background, I needed something a little more scalable with a larger audience. things like that that were just more dialed into what I'm familiar with and what I know I can do. So I actually somebody said, and I kept making bagels. I kept practicing and making them better and better. I had some friends that had a standing order for a dozen a week that I would fulfill, and it was kind of funny. So really, got a lot of positive feedback. So from there, somebody had said, "Hey, would you just sell me your dough so I can make bagels at home?" And I said, "It's not that easy, but yeah, I could do it, and I'll, I mean, it's kind of easy, but it's not as simple as pouring a mix in a pan and baking it." And so I said, I'll box up the ingredients. I won't sell you the dough. I'll box up the ingredients with some instructions, and we'll go from there. So I jumped on Fiverr. I paid a guy $40 to design a box. I had a couple made from a printer up in LA. I didn't have to get that many printed. I want to say I had like 30 printed. And at my commercial kitchen, I filled the bags with the ingredients and heat sealed them. And then I printed out some instructions. I then thought, hey, you know what? This has long shelf life. This I could sell nationally. And I had known about range meat from a previous life. So I threw the box of the organic. So organic is the route I took because that delivered the best flavor and quality. So I posted, on Range Me, this box of organic everything bagels that you can make at home. And I got a hit right away from Gelson's. And Gelson said, okay, we want these in all 30 stores by the holidays. And I said, okay, great. So now I'm thinking, well, I guess I'm in the bagel mix business. And I thought this is a lot better. If Gelson's likes it, other people will like it too. And so that proved to be too daunting. The distributor couldn't get us in on time. It was going to take 4 months to onboard. And there was a whole lot of logistical challenges with it. So I thought, you know what? All right, I need something else now. Again, I see the white space in bagels. I need something else. So I started slicing the bagels into chips. And I sent some to a friend that had a smoked fish dip. He still has it, a smoked fish dip company in Florida. I thought, hey, my chips with your dip, perfect pairing. And I was kind of having fun with seasonings and salts and stuff. And so we're on a Zoom call. He sent me a case of his product, and I sent him a bunch of my samples. And we're on a call just like this, looking at each other, and we're trying the product together. We both grew up in Baltimore, so almost at the same time, we said, "Oh man, these things need Old Bay." So he was like, I don't even know where to start with that." And I thought, "Oh, I've done licensing in a previous life. I think I can figure this out. I think they licensed the Old Bay brand." And I did my LinkedIn super sleuthing. I found somebody on the Old Bay team at McCormick. They're the ones that own the brand, and that person introduced me to the right person. And in about a month, got a call scheduled. One call turned into three, and then we agreed to put a deal together that gave me the exclusive rights to Old Bay seasoned bagel chips as well as Frank's Red Hot bagel chips. And they were going off of samples I made in my kitchen. I had no packaging. I had no nothing. I had no idea how I was going to make them. I was less than ground zero, and I got this deal in hand. It took about 6 months to go through legal, but yeah. So that was my kind of launch for my trajectory out of bagels and into bagel chips. Yeah, I was going to say Layla's in Ocean Park is my choice. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Just to kind of reframe it a little bit, if you're a brand, right, like McCormick owns Old Bay and Frank's Red Hot, among they have several dozen brands. That brand and their main product line. Old Bay is a seasoning that comes in a little tin can for the most part. You can usually find it in the seafood section. Occasionally, it's in the spice section. They want that distinctive brand recognition someplace else in the store. So bagel chips, deli, near the cheeses, maybe in the chip aisle, but nonetheless somewhere else in the store that they can put the brand and get that visibility. Sure, can they bring in converts too? That would be some incremental pieces of it as well. And then you think about Frank's Red Hot, right? Who hasn't heard of Frank's Red Hot? They don't need more exposure, but of course they do. Right. But of course they do. To be to have it on a chip makes perfect sense. So really taking it from the brand point of view, it's additional exposure in other sections of the store. For me, the structure, we have a graduated structure, as we all know in CPG. It takes a while, right, to get placement. There's cycles that stores go through, buying cycles and getting on shelf. You might get an agreement today, but you might not show up on shelf for 9 months. So we have this kind of rolling clock and gradual schedule based on sales. So we pay a royalty based on sales. Um, it originally was a 5-year deal that the clock started ticking when I got the agreement in hand 2 years ago. So it took me. The other half of my story is the tremendous amount of effort I had to go through to get the chips actually made. And McCormick was very generous, and they've extended out my agreements to accommodate for it. So technically, we haven't launched yet with them because we aren't on shelf yet. We're in process with a couple of retailers as we speak, so that's kind of nice. And it will be on shelf here shortly, but um, the licensing part was the easy part, I have to say. The manufacturing part, as you know, as Mike from Manufactured, yeah, is the hard part. Yeah, it obviously started out as a very unscientific whim. Like, yeah, you know what? Old Bay on bagel chips, that's a great idea. The samples tasted good enough. And s- you know, once we got into it and got into a more kind of manufacturing process, it's still pretty simple. We did several levels of seasoning, test runs with different levels of seasoning on the chips, and then forwarded them to McCormick to get their feedback. Um, I was afraid, I was tasting them as well, and I knew what I liked as a consumer and what I thought I could sell. Old Bay has a unique feature in that if you put too much on, it's really, really, really bitter. Because some flavors, if you have too much, it can still be okay. So I was afraid that maybe McCormick might come back and, right, they're in the seasoning business and I have to buy from them exclusively. I thought maybe they'd come back and say, yeah, it needs twice as much Old Bay. They didn't do that at all, actually. They asked me to cut back a little bit. And yeah, yeah, it was really interesting. So they have a group of people, some other food scientists, as well as folks in marketing and just other folks trying the product and all chiming in on it. Um, and what they think. Of course, I'm only going to deliver them what I think is going to get to a yes. So something I've learned in my old age is a lot of things, not to overdo certain things. When you're just looking for a yes, just do what you need to do to get to a yes and keep things moving. So a slight adjustment there. And then I was actually on the floor when we did our first run a couple months back and trying the product as it was coming off the line. Took some of that product, sent it to McCormick for double check, like, hey, here we are. We've done several thousand bags, and what do you think? And got that feedback. And frankly, they were over the moon. We scored a big hit. And funny enough, yesterday I got an order from them for a couple more cases for their offices because they all love it so much. So it's kind of funny. Yes. So if we were to mix it, to answer your question, if we were to mix with other seasonings or toppings or maybe some other kind of brand or whatever, of course they get, I have to ask permission, which is okay. Um, but we don't have anything else in the works. I mean, really where that comes into play is we partner with dip companies, right? My buddy with the fish dip company, we're trying to do things there. I have a beer cheese company I'm trying to partner with on the Frank's Red Hot side. So it can get a little complicated, but it's not impossible to do some fun things like that. Yeah, no, they're very generous. Yeah, no, they actually turned me on to some of their partners and said, "Oh, you should try this." Yeah, yeah. ConAgra has some brands that were a fit, and we just couldn't make something work. But if it's a product that more McCormick sells, right, or a seasoning that they make, of course they don't want me to go get that from somebody else. But if it's not in their wheelhouse, they're open to it. They want to see me succeed. They want to see CaliBagels succeed. That's a great, great question, Mike, and we're even still wrestling with it now. So, a lot of what you've already heard from me is I've been guessing. It's been I've been just trying. Hey, you know what? Old Bay might be good on this. Hey, let's try. Let's ask them. So, as far as our own flavor goes, we know that not everybody loves Old Bay. We know that not everybody loves Frank's Red Hot. And chips, especially bagel chips, when you're talking about how it's bought, a lot of it is bought for an occasion, whether that's a tailgate or a holiday party or whatever else might be going on. Of course, I want people buying it as a snack and eat it every day. But really, when you think about those types of products, a lot of it is event-based shopping. So when that shopper is reaching for our products on the shelf, they might be buying something for grandma, they're buying something for their kids, they might be buying something for their friends. So our other flavors are not the antithesis of Old Bay and Frank's Red Hot, but they're not as bold. So we have a basic sea salt to be attractive to those folks that might like a more plain type of flavor. And then we have another one. Our other flavor is called Savory Sunset, and it's akin to a popular pretzel that's on the market and a standard flavor that they have. It's very it's similar in that it's kind of a buttery, salty flavor. So, yeah. Yeah, so that's four SKUs and then two sizes. So we have a 5 ounce, which is yeah, kind of a typical chip bag size, and then a 1 ounce, which is like an individual, to have on again, just a single serve size. Vending machines, things like that. Yeah, well, I was gonna, when we first connected today, I told you I'm on the East Coast and I'm kind of working it here. So Old Bay is out of Baltimore. It's been here 100 years. So I'm really working this market at the moment. So the primary retailer grocery chain here that I wanted to get into right away and thought that they could have the most success with it is Giant Food. and we're in the works with them as we speak. And they were very excited. So Old Bay has partnered with other snack companies in the past, but a lot of times they just do limited time offerings. So it's here today, gone tomorrow. And while that's nice and that's good for that brand, it's not great for the store, right? Because they get this spike, and it's like, shoot, if I had that thing 12 months, we'd sell probably more 6 months down the line. Um, so with us, we're an everyday item. So a lot of those folks that have seen the one-time offerings come and go really like the idea that they can have ours on shelf every day. And then I don't know if I showed you. Did I show you this when I saw you in LA? Yeah. Yeah, so we're trying to leverage their branding, versus CaliBagels at the moment. And again, that's our appeal. That's how we're appealing to retailers. You already sell Old Bay, you sell a ton of it. Here's just a product extension that we're offering that's also very is excellent as well. Well, you touched on something earlier, and bagel chips aren't made from bagels. I mean, a lot of bagel shops offer bagel chips, which are sliced bagels. I thought naively that's how I was going to do it at first. And so that was part of the initial challenge. And then I quickly figured out that it created a product that was too brittle and made too much of a mess. And it was just really, it was going to be a bag of crumbs, is what we were coming up with. And then finding the machines to actually slice the bagels and not have a lot of waste. It was kind of it was an exercise I had to go through, but that proved wrong. Then we discovered a process, rotating die. So think about sheeted dough with a Play-Doh like cutter that rolls over it and cuts them out in the correct shape. So our initial product was round with a hole in it, so it looked like somewhat of a slice of a bagel. And that process was great. We got it done once, and my bakery couldn't replicate it after that. And we honestly, to this day, don't know why it wouldn't work. But the dough was getting wrapped around the die, and we tried for 3 months, and it was really a problem. I had other bakeries, so I went off to other bakeries and said, "Could you do this? Hey, you make pita chips. Could you make this like that?" And unfortunately, I was pretty stuck on making something that looked like a bagel chip, a round cracker like thing with a hole in the middle. And I'm not saying that maybe that was a mistake, but it was really, really, that was the hard part. It was getting that shape. The other challenge was volumes, right? I'm a small guy. I'm not making a lot. I can't go to a co-man that supplies Nabisco and some of the other cracker makers out there because they want huge volumes. A lot of other bakeries that I encountered didn't have R&D departments. They wanted me to show up and tell them how to make my product. Again, I was running educational events for around e-commerce, prior to this. But I had this contract in hand with McCormick that I had to execute on. That I saw the potential in it and the market in it. Listening to other podcasts besides yours. Guy Raz has that "How I Built This," right? And Simple Mills, she's got a great story, right? She walked into her local Whole Foods with some gluten-free muffins that she made at home, and that was the beginning, and she took off from there. Stacy's Pita Chips, great story there. She was selling like euros out of a street cart in Boston, and people kept asking, to buy chips from her to take home, and coming up to her cart and only buying chips and walking away with it. And she had her kind of pivot and said, "Oh, we're going to do chips full time." And now everybody knows Stacy's. And pita chips at that time was not a category. It just wasn't. It was a very, right, it was an exotic international food thing. It wasn't prime time, and she helped bring the pita chip to prime time. Um, so I, listening to those things kind of, yeah, as I would get my exercise walks in and working out and whatnot, and I would hear about what other people did, and so I just kind of kept plugging away. Some manufacturers didn't tell the truth. Oh yeah, we can do that. We can do this. We can do, a lot of promises and then nothing. Yeah, not really being able to execute on it. So, and it's hard too, right? Because you want to trust what people are telling you. You're a bakery. I'm asking you to make X. You're telling me you can make X. I have to believe that you're going to do that, And unfortunately, a lot of them couldn't do that. And so I was at my wit's end. I got booted from a manufacturer. I found the right process. Somebody reached out to me, a friend of a friend, and said, "Hey, I used to be in the chip making business. This is what you want." So it's called low pressure extrusion. So we all know extrusion in CPG because I mean you can make puffs and puff this, and people make granola and cereal and cheese puffs and whatever. That's high pressure extrusion, and that stretches the dough. Low pressure extrusion doesn't damage the dough like that. And basically, just think of it as a giant Play Doh press. Just slowly pushes the dough through the exact shape that you want. And then a high speed knife comes through and slices it slices it as thin as you need it. And it drops on the conveyor and goes right in to the oven. So think pretzel crisps, right? They're all the exact same shape. They're thin. That's how they make pretzel crisps. Well, those machines are few and far between. And I got down the road with Hershey. They bought Dots Pretzels, who had those machines, and they were contracting out. And then Hershey had their issues, so I couldn't go down the road with Hershey. I went with this other place in Michigan. This whole process was 5 months. Got green lighted. We did a test run. It was beautiful. It was perfect. Here we go. I'm about to order a grip of Old Bay seasoning and packaging and everything to go with it. And here we go. And I get a call from some cheery person at the co-man that says, "Hey, nice to meet you. We've given away your line time. Call us in 2 years." Yeah. Yeah. So yeah. And that was pretty frustrating. So I unfortunately tried to do some other things that weren't as smart, not as good a product. I never didn't follow through on any of them, but I did some test runs with other methods and other ideas and was falling short. And then I kind of went back to the drawing board and went back to my original notes and started calling all the bakeries, commercial bakeries that I had called when I first started. And I dumbed down my ingredients. When I started out, I wanted the chip to be organic, right? Just like the bagels. Got rid of that, got rid of all the specialty in it, got rid of the hole in the middle. I just need a bagel chip. I just need a really good, high quality bagel chip. I've got the seasoning, I've got the flavor, right? I've got the potential marketing, I've got the potential audiences baked in. So I went back to one of my original co-mans and they said, "Great, we'd love to have you. Perfect timing. We've got some capacity. Let's go." So I'm going down the road with my current co-man. They've been nothing but fantastic. And I've been working with them since May, June. And we're scheduling our next kind of full production run of all flavors of all sizes as we speak. And I'm waiting for that confirmation to come through today. So yeah, I'm very excited, and I think you will be too when I get you some samples. Is they came out, even though I've dumbed down some things and tried to make it simpler and everything else, it's the best product I could have ever come up with. So the couple of years of hard work and rejection and all the ups and downs that came with it has been worth it because right now I have the perfect product in my eyes. Yeah, great questions, Mike. My seasonings are regional, right? So Old Bay is regional. So when it comes to the retailers and who to go after, and where it's going to be a good fit and for what customer, the seasonings are driving the bus a little bit on that. Our brand is California. CaliBagels is California. We have a retro logo. It's kind of a throwback. It's a very simple product that doesn't require explanation. So in those regions, in the California regions, we're going to be leveraging that, our aspirational California branding. I learned, we're in the same LinkedIn kind of feeds and have the same couple hundred people that are, filling our feeds with good information on LinkedIn regarding CPG, whether that be natural or traditional channels. And I just found out or figured out again, kind of back to I was in e-commerce and wanted to serve a large audience. E-commerce allows for that. To me, the best way to tackle a product in CPG is something that addresses the largest audiences. And unfortunately, in my eyes, a organic bagel chip, there's just not a large enough market. It'd be great to be in Whole Foods. It'd be great to be in every Sprouts, but it's less than 10% of the overall grocery retail market. And then you throw convenience on top of that and all the other alternative channels that are not natural and organic. I'll take that. I'd rather go after that, right? I'm in this it's a business. At the end of the day, it's a business and I need to make money. And that in order for this business to make good money is I need to go after, I need to sell a product that satisfies most people. It's not to say we won't do a non-GMO in the future. We're actually talking to Sprouts about a non-GMO chip for them, which would be fun. We could do that. But as you know, non-GMO comes added costs. And to your question about pricing, I'd like to keep my product under $5, for a 5 ounce bag. I have two direct competitors in the space. Their penetration is less than 50% nationwide. Um, but they have a price point that I'm right in there with. But I also have to compare myself to potato chips, to tortilla chips, siete chips, right? They're flavor forward themselves, despite the health benefits that they have great flavors as well. And it's kind of new and interesting and high quality as well. It's relatively new and interesting. And so those price points, I'm always comparing myself across the board. And luckily, we have pretty good margin at that price. We're not killing ourselves just to try and get a $4.99 item. Again, it's a business. We need margin. I need margin so I can work with folks like you. I need to hire PR people. I need to hire a CFO. I need right. Everything needs to be supported through that margin. So yeah, that's it in a nutshell for me. I'd say cogs. I'd say cogs. Yeah, yeah. I'd have to say cogs because I have this production run that we're planning right now, and I've got to buy some material and pieces for 3, 4 months out in order to get the best pricing. Even though I'm only making X amount, I have to buy for, right? I know the deal, but as I'm like, oh my gosh, we have to, yeah, exactly, exactly. So I'll take the cogs. You're exactly right. Yeah, Mike, thank you a lot. Thanks a lot. I really appreciate you having me on. And again, hopefully somebody can pull some pearls out of that and it'll help their business.